G'day guys, back with another video. This time we're having a look at some new gear we just picked up this morning. Been down to Aldi again. Of course you should be used to that by now with us. And what we've got here is a 200 watt solar panel or a solar blanket, and we've also got one of these power pack. A lot of people you will have seen advertising this sort of gear over the last 2-3 years, I guess. A lot of them are very expensive. Now this one's not a particularly big one. It's only 16 amp hours. That's pretty small, and it's $400, $399. It's got a 600 watt pure sine wave inverter on it. Not too sure what else. Going to pull it all out of the box and see what's there. There's not going to be a lot to look at in the way of the solar panel, I don't think at the moment. So we'll start off by having a look at this power station. $400 is really cheap for one of these. By the way, the panel 200 watts for $229, so we're talking about $1 a watt. I probably should have learnt my lesson with cheap panels after buying the Kings that died after about a year. That was absolute rubbish, but I'm hoping, being Aldi gear, it is at least going to be better than that, and it's going to last a while. Time will tell. This is not a video about how good this gear is. This is just about first impressions and having a look at what you get for your money. Okay, so that didn't take too much unboxing. Just a matter of pulling that and that out of the cardboard box, and we're done. So we've got, let's have a look at what's on here. We have a single 240 volt outlet, that's 600 watts apparently. We've got two USB A's, two USB C's. We've got some other connectors up here. What do we got? 12 volt, 5 volt DC. Okay, so that's output, 12 volts. And we have the input, and that's what we've got this little fella here for. Now, how we go charging this via a solar panel will be interesting. It's going to be not very useful if you've only got 240 volt to charge it up. I'm going to have a look at the manual and see if there's any way to use a solar panel on this. That would be far more useful for using out in the boonies if this thing can be charged up. Let's see what else we've got around the place. We've got a light on the end there. We've got a couple of fans on the back to keep it cool. And looks like we've got more lights on this side. I'm assuming we've got a light on the other side. We've got lights here, that's for sure. It definitely looks like, yes, it's another light on that side, so that's a smaller light. So this one's going to be a more gentle light probably. The other side is more of a torch. This is more for using in a tent, I guess. There's not a lot to it. You wouldn't expect all that much, I guess, for $400, considering these things, the big ones from Blue 80 and people like that, cost you around a couple of $1,000s. 16 amp hours is not a lot of power. But what I'm going to do now is throw it on charge and go away, read the manual, and see if we can find out anything interesting about it. This is the little screen on the power unit. We're charging it up. As you can see, it's up to 92%, showing you how many watts are going in. And I assume when you've got power going out, we're going to get information on that as well, so we'll have a look at that shortly. Now, this is a very small unit at 16 amp hours, so I'm not expecting too much out of it. This is not the sort of thing you're going to run fridges from. This is specifically going to be for charging up the computer, for phones, for camera gear, that sort of thing. And occasionally could be used to run a power tool because it's got 600 watt capacity. And that's generally enough to run a drill or something like that if you want to get somewhere and you don't want to run a 240 volt line to it. Very neat, nicely finished, feels nice. It's only around 6 kilos. There is no information anywhere that I can find that says what sort of battery's in there. Now that's odd. There should be something that tells people what kind of battery's in there, simply so that you can have some idea of the likely problems with it. Because these things are very expensive. When you buy 600 watt with another brand name on it, they can cost you $900. This is less than half of that. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how long it lasts. I'm hoping actually that it's a lithium battery in there, because if it is, then it's going to give more power. There's going to be more power available than it would be if it's an AGM. Impossible to say, because nobody is telling us anything. I'm going to do my best to find out and see if I can report on that. And the other thing I was going to mention was charging it. Obviously this is via 240 volt, which is the way it's meant to be charged up. I was wondering if it was possible to get one of these connectors and charge it up with a solar panel, but I'm wondering if that's such a good idea. What I may have to do, because we've got solar systems set up in the coaster, and that's probably where this is going to go, what I'm going to do is use the inverter in the coaster to charge this, because at least that way I can be sure it is going to get the proper charge, so we're not going to damage it. I have no idea really if I get a plug like that and attach it to the solar panels, what the result of that's going to be. Okay, doing a bit of testing to see if it actually is possible to hook this up to a solar panel. I had presumed it was just a matter of making up an adapter like this with an Anderson plug on one end and those little 2.1mm adapters on the other. Due to, I assume, the BMS in this thing, it isn't actually detectable to the regulator when you plug the battery in. So the usual sequence of events, let's just take this off. So the usual sequence of events is you hook the battery up first. So battery on this side, coming down, we've got a meter here to have a look at what's going on. So normally you would just plug that in and it would automatically detect the battery here, and as you can see that screen is completely blank. I wish they wouldn't make these things so shiny. Unfortunately that means that the regulator doesn't detect the battery at all. Turning this on doesn't make any difference, because that's just turning on your output. It doesn't detect any input, which is at the top. It's ready to output, but again, nothing. The battery just doesn't show up. And when you plug in the solar panel, like that, you get power through to here, but unfortunately virtually no input. You can see 1 watt flashes on and off, so something's going on, but it's not doing what it should be doing. You see it went up to 2 watts then, so, and we're getting flashing red lights on there. Now whether that is just because the battery's low, it should be. It should indicate that it's charging, but if it is charging, it's doing it very, very slowly and intermittently. That's going to take forever to do anything. 2 watts is maximum. So yeah, a bit of a problem there. So there's no way that I can see that you can actually charge these things up with a solar panel. I don't have a proper explanation for that, but I suspect it's the BMS in here that doesn't allow power to show this way. It's only allowing power in, so the regulator doesn't know the battery's there. This lights up as soon as you get power coming through to here, but as soon as you take that solar off, completely dead. No power coming back, and I think that's the problem. It's disappointing, but we can charge this up as we drive with an inverter. We've got inverter in the coaster, we've got an inverter in the car, so we don't have a problem with getting this thing charged up while we're driving along. Just a bit disappointing that we can't charge it with solar. Just having a quick look at what the light is capable of on this power station, and as you can see there, quite a big LED array, fairly bright, and it lights up the area reasonably well. It actually is a little better than you can see on the camera there. To the naked eye, I can see the fence at the end there quite clearly, whereas the camera is not quite picking that up. But that's not bad at all. Quite useful to have that on the end. So having bought this Ferrex power station, what do I think we're going to use it for? Well, here is probably going to be the primary use, as you can see here, all hooked up to various bits and pieces. These are all microphone related, apart from the infrared torch there. It's going to be used a lot for recharging camera gear, and it will also probably be used for running the computer, maybe when we don't have access to power, or maybe when power is limited and I don't want to use batteries in the coaster or something like that. This will be a good backup, so we can actually run the computer off it. Now, being that it'll take 600 watts, I'll get a external power board for that, so that we can run more than 2 points of it. I'll also get some different, this isn't actually much of a USB hub. There's only just one USB-A and one USB-C on there, but I'll probably get a 4-port USB-C connector and a 4-port USB-A connector, so that we can run up to 8 items off these ports here. And you can see all this slot here is pretty well charged up, because the draw on that is actually so small at the moment it's not even being registered. So it's going to be quite useful for that, I think. And once I get these 2.1mm connectors, I think I've got some in the shed at home, we can then hook up various other connectors. So I can run an Anderson plug off it. I can also run a cigarette lighter plug off it. It's a little bit disappointing that they don't come with more connectors. I would think that for even if they want to put the price of it up a few dollars extra, it would be really good to have these connectors with the set, so that you don't have to run off after you've bought it and go and find them, which is exactly what I'll be doing now on eBay. Now, one thing I've needed to do with this unit is make up some adapters so that we can plug it into various items where output sockets are not provided. So the first one you can see there is an Anderson plug. So we've just got one of these little plugs on there that goes into one of those sockets. Same thing done with a standard like cigarette lighter adapter, the old usual 12-volt plug. Quite often you need something that plugs into that. I am very surprised that they didn't put one of those on here, but again, same thing, set that up to plug into there. On the other end, where we want to get it to maybe a T-pin, we used to use these a lot. We're phasing them out gradually, but we've still got some of them around. So where we've got this one, we can plug that in and then get to a T-pin plug. It's an old style or an older style, generally lower wattage for 12 volt. I bought this Ferrex little power pack from Aldi quite a few months ago now. We haven't made a lot of use of it until the recent trip. It's just been sitting around in the shed waiting for me to find some use for it. I always thought that might come in handy for something. Now, compared to the big ones that are available, the very expensive ones, the $2,000 ones, This has got a very small amount of power. It's only 16 amp hours, but it is lithium. It has a few different connections on it, not as many as I'd like to see, but enough, I guess, and you can make up adapters for anything you don't have. And what we used it for on the recent trip was to run the computers. We've always been a little bit worried, I guess, about using too much power at night if we want to keep the computers on and we want to stay up late. And what we did on this trip is we plugged this into the inverter. Now we've got a big inverter in here, 1000 watt inverter, although it's not considered big these days. Little fella down here, that's in the back of the coaster, and it comes out from that plug over there, which you can probably just see. And what we do when we're driving is plug this little power pack into the inverter of the coaster, and that charges it up as we're driving along. So at night, when we're ready to use the computers and we finish watching TV and all the rest of it, all we have to run in the coaster are the fridges and the lights, and no excess drain. This has been pretty useful for that. It means we can use the computers without any worries at all about pulling too much power off the main battery system. Not that the computers are going to use that much anyway, but it's just a bit of peace of mind, I guess, and I've got the power pack anyway. So you can see we're home now, and I'm just charging this up since we've got back, and it'll charge off mains, which it's doing now. We've got that plugged in just underneath there. We've got a power port there which runs to the main system of the coaster. That's the first thing we found it to be really useful for. And it's fairly lightweight because it's only, as I say, 16 amp hours. It's not too heavy. It's got lights on both ends. The one thing I think they could have done is put more power ports on it. They certainly could have done with an Anderson plug. You have to make an adapter up separately for that if you want one. A couple of fans in the back which come on when it's working. They do make a bit of noise, I got to say. You wouldn't want to go to sleep with those on. But then you wouldn't want to go to sleep with this on anyway, I guess. But it is a handy portable little pack. And I just thought I'd share the first use that we've got out of it.